Time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod. Use the
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and another episode of Rebels Talk, where we, your hosts, Blake and Josh, break down the latest episodes in Star Wars Rebels. I mean, this is a rewatch podcast though, so it's really not the latest. I mean, we're going way back to season 1 of Star Wars Rebels and going through the series in chronological order and talking about the series as an after show, so you can follow along with us at home. So make sure you check the description for which episodes that we're talking about today. Watch those first to come back to this episode later. But without further ado, let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
All right, Rebels Talk Part 4. Welcome back, Blake.
Hello there. Thanks. Good to be back. As always, I'm excited to get into some Rebels.
Yes, absolutely.
Hello there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we got a couple episodes on the roster to chat about today, which include Season 1, Episode 9, Season 1, Episode 10, Season 1, Episode 11, and Season 1, Episode 12. So let's just dive straight in. Season 1, Episode 9, Gathering Forces. I know it's been a couple weeks since we last talked about a Star Wars Rebels episode. And, we've been so busy with other subjects. I mean, we've since seen the release of Jedi Battle Scars, Star Wars Visions Volume 2. We had the full review for Jedi Survivor, as well as a Lightspeed. So, it's been crazy. But I'm glad that we got some time to kind of fit these in every now and again,
Oh man, you make me feel guilty though. You already did the review for Battle Scars, and I'm thinking about Chapter 5. Yeah. So gonna make our way through that yesterday, actually. So.
Oh man, yeah. To quote Anakin from the Clone Wars movie, "Gotta keep up."
Yeah.
Gotta keep up, Snips. Yeah, no, it's a
I'll
lot.
see if I can even finish it. I'm not sure about this book so far, so I'm not since the review's done. I'm not sure if I'm even gonna bother. I'm having a hard time getting into it.
Honestly,
if you're going direction, I'm not as
if you're me. Yeah, no, I get it. As far as the book goes, like if just as a side note, like if you don't feel like continuing reading it and you're on a long drive or a flight somewhere, just maybe tune into that episode, and we do it like a non-spoiler ish part at the beginning, and then we kind of go full spoiler mode and give the whole spoiler warning bell on people. And they get to kind of, get the full story for things and kind of a good summary and recap for what happened in the book, so that way you can skip reading it. So totally up to you.
I might just do that this time around.
Yeah.
I'm usually pretty good about reading the books and sharing my take on it.
It was definitely one of the
at least at the beginning. It might get better.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a smooth show. It was a smooth recording. We just kind of got in there.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we hit the main things. I feel like a lot of people enjoyed it. So, and it was our first time in a long time bringing back AJ onto the podcast too, which he does a good job at diverting away.
Not just any AJ. Fan favorite AJ.
That's right. Yeah, I mean it's hard to lock him down for a recording. He's such a busy guy.
He's crazy. That guy's always busy. He's doing so many recordings, so many fan requests.
Yeah, that's right.
He's a popular guy.
Awesome. Let's get into season 1, episode 9, Gathering Forces. That's what it's called. Directed by Stuart Lee, written by Greg Weisman, guest stars D. Bradley Baker, Peter McNoll, and Matthew Wood. This episode was released on WatchDisney.com, WatchDisneyXD.com on November 17th, 2014, and premiered on Disney XD November 24th. So the summary reads, learning that Zebo failed to save his parents from being abducted by the Empire, Ezra lashes out at Zebo for betraying his parents' trust. Amid the chase, the Imperials attach a homing beacon to the hull of the Phantom, which Kanan opts to detach from the Ghost in hyperspace with himself and Ezra aboard to mislead the Imperials. The two arrive at Fort Anaxis, where Kanan teaches Ezra to forgive Zebo by admitting his fear of not knowing what happened to his parents. The two tame the Furnox by connecting to them through the Force and set them against the arriving Imperial forces, but are cornered by the Inquisitor, who injures Kanan. Overcome with anger, Ezra uses the dark side of the Force to summon a giant Furnock against the Inquisitor, allowing the two to escape. Back on the Ghost, Sabine gives Ezra a picture of his parents she found in his house. Afterwards, the Ghost crew takes Zebo to Fulcrum, while Hera offers to relay the information to Ezra about what Zebo knows of his parents' fate. So that was Episode 9, Gathering Forces. What did you like about this episode?
I really enjoyed probably like the ending side of it, where we kind of see Ezra fall a bit to the dark side. I thought that was super interesting, and it makes sense considering like what we learned about his parents in his past here, that he would probably have some of that underlying angst and stuff. And we'll see as it comes to the later episodes that he, because of the loss of his parents at such a young age and trying to be very self-sufficient, that he really wants the control to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like, it's the first time in a while that, of course, I think I've mentioned this before in previous Rebels episodes, that kind of the bitter lens are sort of off my face now at this point. And, to those who may be just tuning into Rebels Talk for the first time, when this show first came out, it was kind of as a replacement for the recently canceled Star Wars The Clone Wars. And as we know, they eventually went back and kind of restored the show and gave it a finale. But Rebels was kind of directly responsible for the cancellation of that show. And I always kind of like didn't really connect with it all that well back then, because I was such a big Clone Wars fan and I was so mad,
Yeah, I'm laughing because you have to share this every episode as a prelude of why you're kind of bitter about Rebels.
Right. Well, that's the thing, though, right? Like now the bitter lens are off. I feel like we've hit the 9-year mark since this show since these episodes were premiered, and it just really I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm in a point of almost nostalgically looking back at this show, going like, you know what? It's actually pretty good. And
that's funny. Yeah, I think it only took 10 years for you to come to terms with the Rebels series.
Now, if you asked me the same about The Force Awakens, I could not respond the same way.
Well, that one's got a little more baggage, I think, with the George Lucas stuff.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, the George Lucas stuff was that was hard for us all to deal with, I think. But so there was a few things I liked about this episode. First of all, that missile tracker that the Inquisitor launched at the ship was pretty cool. That was a new piece of hardware that we've never seen before, so that was pretty neat.
Yeah, that actually got me, because this came out before Last Jedi by a number of years. I know one of the things that people, was it Last Jedi? Maybe it was Rise of Skywalker. I'm trying to remember. No, it was Last Jedi, because that was the whole premise of why they couldn't escape. Because like that led to the chase scene of them trying to get away through hyperspace, but they're being tracked by the First Order. And a lot of people were like really upset that this technology existed now, because that's kind of always the thing in Star Wars, right? It's if you waited long enough, if you could survive long enough for the navigcomputer to be able to calculate the jump, then you could escape. Mm-hmm. Right? That's kind of, especially through the original trilogy, that was always kind of a staple of how you get away from the Empire.
Yeah.
And so they removed that in the Last Jedi. And what we kind of see here in this episode, that the Empire's kind of already working on that technology. It's just a really early version where they need like a physical tracker through hyperspace.
Yeah. And to have it part of the
As soon as I say that, though, I'm remembering that Obi-Wan threw that thing on Jango Fett's ship. And I assume that would have worked through hyperspace as well. I'm not sure if that would have been different technology or not.
Yeah, just a personal theory of that piece of technology. That sort of my eyes kind of point towards the idea that maybe it tracks the ship when it exits hyperspace rather than it kind of relaying the information while it's traveling through hyperspace. That's kind of the way that I looked at that piece of technology. But the way that this Inquisitor prototype ship, because it is a TIE advanced prototype, right? The one that Vader later has in episode 4, like this is kind of the early model that they're sort of trying to design beforehand, right? So it's cool. It's cool that this piece of technology kind of exists as part of that ship's prototype features, and then later
it also is now like mobile, as in it's launched through like a missile as opposed to being physically put on the ship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was pretty neat. So it's always nice to kind of catch those little advancements of technology through Star Wars because, that way, when we point these things out, it's not super jarring or weird to like launch into, Mandalorian or even just any of those shows or the sequels or whatever, and then go like, oh, where the heck did that come from? And like, at least there's some context to like the buildup of like where that sort of was originated, right?
Yeah, they're not just thrown in and kind of like made up as you go along. Because then I know that's something that as Star Wars has grown, a lot of fans, and myself included, at least to some level, are get a little bit jaded when it feels like stuff's just getting thrown in to make narratives just work properly. It feels kind of gimmicky, as in they're like wrote themselves into a corner. Like, how do we fix this? Just make something up. But as opposed to being like a cool technology like added. So and that's where the hyperspace thing I think falls. So if you kind of look at it through this lens, it's a little more believable. But when the movie first came out, I know a lot of people were like, "What is this? Like, why does this need to be here? It doesn't really fit with what we know about Star Wars so far."
Right. Yeah. Exactly. The TIE Fighter V1 makes its return in this episode, and it was only in the last episode that they blew it up. So I thought it was kind of weird that, well, maybe they have more than one, I guess, but they made such a big deal about it in front of the parade of people on Empire Day that, and this episode kind of goes, I didn't realize until after the fact, but this episode kind of goes back to back because they've got Zebo on board the Ghost, they're getting away from the Empire, and we see the Inquisitor in his ship. Yeah, we see the Inquisitor in his ship that they just blew that up, and like on Lothal, it's like, dude, where'd you pull that out of, man? What kind of stash you got going on back there?
All right, make this big deal, this explosion, the ship blowing up, and then so the camera like zooms back and there's like 5 more right there.
So good, right? It's like the Inquisitors, like you kill one, there's just a few more around the corner.
Oh man. Yeah, that definitely opens the door to something we can get into later, because that's pretty much exactly what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I'm almost wondering if they were banking on the fact that these episodes came out a week apart, that maybe no one would think about it. Because I didn't even catch that, because we took a break between episodes, so I didn't even realize that's what happened either.
Right, I think it's the first time ever that I've noticed that. Ezra says,
someone better tweet Pablo. What the heck's going on here?
Yeah. Someone tweet Pablo. Speaking of Pablo, we actually did get some tweets from him actually earlier today for an Indiana Jones related thing.
I saw that.
Yeah, maybe we can bring that up if we got time later in the episode. But Ezra says he's been on his own since he was 7 years old, and I think it's worth noting that this really kind of gives timeline continuity and sort of like solidifies the idea that this moment that's happening right now, Empire Day is his birthday. So, being the fact that Empire Day is the formation of the Empire 7 years prior during Revenge of the Sith, it's sort of, my bad. Empire Day is, he's been on his own since he was 7. So sorry, this is the death of his parents, I guess, right? So because this show takes place, what is it, like 14 or so years after Revenge of the Sith, that's about kind of what Ezra's age is. and we kind of get a good time frame for like when his parents were killed by the Empire, which is probably about 3 years before the events of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And, we've got a better idea for like what that time looked like now, because, we can kind of place it, I guess, around the Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor time frame, maybe even like right where the Battle Scars novel takes place. So, it's a dark time for the Empire. It's about as dark as it gets kind of during those years. And, it's tough for a kid to grow up kind of in that time frame. So for me, seeing
it's very interesting though, seeing how this all comes together, because as years have gone by, it seems like they keep inserting more Jedi into this era, and it's just strange that even the later stuff, like, because I was just mentioning, I was reading Battle Scars like yesterday, and one of the things that was mentioned, maybe this is farther back, but I remember specifically Cal mentions that him and his master are potentially the only Jedi left. So it's like, why does every Jedi think that and not know about each other when they're all somewhat working for the rebellion, which, as we're probably going to discuss in this episode or the next, spoilers, is Ahsoka, who's kind of like running all of this, starting out all the different cells.
Right.
So it's weird that these different cells of rebels with Jedi don't know about other cells of Jedi. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely something that we'll talk about in the finale episode, because that actually comes up in regards to Kanan's absence of knowledge that these cells even exist, right? And that was put into context verbally, I think, in something that he said. So yeah, we'll definitely get into that, because that is a really good point to make. But I am curious, because like, even when the rebellion sort of comes together in the end of season 1, again, like, spoilers for anyone who's never seen the show, but it is true. It's like, well, when that happens, what's the deal with like them not being put in touch with each other? It's like they hook up with the rebellion, and then maybe Bail like casually mentions, oh yeah, by the way, we got like 2 or 3 other Jedi kind of like on our team, yeah. I don't know.
Even beyond that, like when I play the games, you do come across just like random people who aren't Imperials as Cal. So it's like people see that there's Jedi out there. So why do rumors not reach each other's cell? You know what I mean? Like a Jedi being there is a big deal, and that we're going to get into later in this season of Rebels. Again, that comes up because that's why the rebellion comes forward, as people started talking about Kanan seeing his Jedi as a something that's giving them hope, and obviously that means there's gonna be huge rumors spreading around.
Totally, yeah. So there was something else about this episode. Is Ezra? Sorry, say again.
I'll get to later.
Yeah.
I'll say because it relates to the cell. So I was gonna get into it. We can talk about it later in a minute. We actually get into the cell stuff. Yeah.
Sounds good. Ezra says that he experiences the dark side for really the first time in this episode, and to me, at first I was like, "Whoa, okay, yeah, this guy really kind of had a bit of a Rey dark side moment there, where kind of like her moment in the cave, where she kind of just goes straight to the dark, and Luke is all freaked out about it." And I think it was interesting not only to see how Kanan approached the situation, being new to being his Jedi master to somebody for the first time, but really also to see the connection between Ezra connecting with the dark side on a level similar to Anakin, where he's able to tap into that fear and that anger so quickly because he's afraid to lose somebody he cares about, which is Kanan. And that was, I think, a relatable moment to a lot of characters in the series.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, that he kind of used like Force Dominate Mind on that giant. What are they called?
Yeah, the
Fergles.
Fernox. Fergles.
Fernox. Yeah. Close enough.
The Fergies.
I got the first letter right. There we go. Yeah. Furbies.
Yeah, the Furbies. Yeah, dude, they kind of look like Furbies.
A little bit. If the Furbies are like when they're young, they kind of grow and have real limbs. And shed all of their hair, I guess.
Yeah. No, Furbies would have been scarier, 100%. The lightsaber fight between Kanan and the Inquisitor was pretty cool, but he still can't beat the Inquisitor. And it's definitely, they make it very obvious that he's rough. Like it's been a while since he's needed to use his lightsaber, and he's only recently picked it back up again. And we did mention it in the first episode of Rebels Talk that that's the moment where he really opens it up for the first time in so long. And then in the first episode of the series, like in the Spark of Rebellion TV movie, like the first 2 episodes, he really does pull it out for the first time in front of like other people that witness this event and then get away with that knowledge. So like, he hasn't fought anyone with a lightsaber for years, and nor as a Padawan, I don't think he's ever really kind of had that life and death scenario situation. I think the only people he fought with lightsaber before is probably training droids and his training at the temple. So it's interesting.
I would think he would have some battle experience fighting, like battle droids and super battle droids. But that's probably it. I wouldn't expect him to have had any interaction or combat against any other Force users at all. Like I doubt they ever came across Ventress or Grievous,
right? And
certainly not Dooku. Right. And really, I guess Palpatine is the only other one. So other than that, like, there's really no other lightsaber Force wielders that would be trying to kill him. So
yeah, and he was quite young at the time too. So there's no expectation that would have been an experience that he's had, right? So
no,
yeah,
it would have been the same thing that ended up happening in Order 66, where Barry Lapa Chi goes into fight and just tells him to run away.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, exactly.
Run.
Yeah, this is the first episode that we get a mention of Fulcrum for the first time, and I know we've talked about this famous character returning and all that, but this, I believe, was the first time that we heard the word Fulcrum and the nickname given to that of Miss Tano. So it was interesting to kind of like get that sort of some light on the scenario of this mystery figure who's really kind of driving a lot of the rebel cells' activities and stuff like that, right?
Do you remember when this first started coming out? This is taking me back. There's so much speculation, like who's Fulcrum? Who could it be? And then like there's those crates that have Ahsoka's her tattoos on her forehead or on the boxes, and we're like, dude, right. Like it might be Ahsoka. Oh my gosh! Everyone was so excited and like speculating.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, there was people taking the audio of there's a hologram that she shows up in an episode or two. And there were people, with the hood, and there were people that were like garbling the audio to like try and figure out who it was, and it was impressive. And they were right, that for I feel like it was weeks before the season finale, like we kind of all knew like who it was already. So yeah.
Spoil the Star Wars fans can relied on anything. It's to spoil the big reveal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Speculated to death, so you can never be surprised.
Yeah. There's no better way to exactly guess what's coming by guessing literally every possible scenario. So
Yeah, exactly. And then of course when you find out, you go, I was right, or they were right, and it's because there's like thousands of ideas.
Yeah,
clearly there's only so many that you can actually pick from. So.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's like the new lucky draw, the new lucky draw of that person being like the Star Wars fan who guessed it right on social media or whatever. And
oh man, they were right all along. Yeah, no, so true. It's funny though because I almost feel like that directly led to Rian Johnson just like giving up. Like, what is the thing that we could do that even if they guessed it, like, it doesn't matter. It's like not even trying.
I just picture I just picture him in a writing room with like Kathleen Kennedy and a bunch of other people thinking like, okay, how can we subvert all of Zero's expectations?
Specifically going after Mike Zero. Okay, this guy he does 3 to 5 Star Wars videos a day, and it's been 8 years, so we got to do something he hasn't come up with yet.
Yeah. 8 years worth of theories, 3 to 5 videos a day. How can we compete with this?
Oh my gosh!
How can we make this guy wrong? Yeah.
Pablo, you got a new job. You got to watch all 3,000 videos and write down all the ideas, and we'll have a big list to not do.
Oh, Pablo. Oh man. Yeah. Good luck, Pablo. See ya. That's your.
He's a busy guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll need that project in 2 weeks.
He goes to sleep. He puts on Mike Zero and listens to theories.
Just dreams about
Do it
Zero.
before bed.
Oh man. Okay. Zebo tells Hera about Ezra's parents, and she eventually she says to Zebo that she'll relay that information to Ezra. And I don't recall that we ever got that moment where she tells Ezra what Zebo knows about his parents, but I guess kind of behind the scenes, maybe that scene happens, or maybe I'm just forgetting that there's a moment in season 2 that happens where she does that. But I was just wondering, like, I was going to ask you about this.
I think it's off camera because it goes from her saying to, I think next episode, really, they're all kind of talking about it in past tense.
Yeah. It was interesting, I guess, to I was thinking about that. I was going, yeah, it must happen off camera because I can't remember when it does happen. So I guess it's not super important. I guess the main thing is that they're dead, right? Like they're not. There's no mystery around that.
That, and as we find out in the coming episodes, that they were putting out the Rebel radio channel.
Yeah, that's right. The broadcast. Yeah.
They were the original Rebel Force Radio.
Yeah, that's right. Dude, can you imagine if, like, in universe they actually called it that?
They should. That'd be a fun nod.
Yeah, it would
fun little nod for like OG fans of the show.
Yeah. Those guys are legends. This episode was a 2-parter to the previous episode. That was only apparent to me kind of like after, starting to watch it. But that's it. That's episode 9, Gathering Forces. So let's move on to episode 10, Path of the Jedi. The episode was written by Charles Murray and directed by executive producer Dave Filoni. Released on WatchDisney.com and WatchDisney, the app, on December 29th, 2014. And premiered on Disney XD January 5th, 2015. Guest stars Frank Oz. Concerned with Ezra's previous display of the dark side against the Inquisitor, Kanan brings him to a hidden Jedi temple on Lothal to be tested for his readiness in Jedi training. While Kanan stays behind, Ezra makes his way through the temple alone and is faced with a series of visions showing the Inquisitor killing Kanan and the rest of the Ghost crew. After seeing through the illusions, Ezra is guided by the disembodied voice of Jedi Master Yoda, who helps him admit his fear of being alone again. Kanan also speaks with Yoda about his own ability to teach Ezra, and Yoda leads Ezra to a kyber crystal, which he uses to build his own lightsaber. So this was a cool episode because Yoda, kind of returns mysteriously. We heard some Attack of the Clones Yoda theme music playing through the background of this episode. And Ezra kind of uses the Force to find the temple and everything like that. It was very Jedi-ish. Reminded me a lot of like the Attack of the Clones youngling scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There was one really cool thing that I noticed that I hadn't noticed before, and that was that in this episode where we see Kanan and Ezra, they find the Jedi Temple, and together they have to use the Force to lift it out of the ground. The whole temple. It's a big spire, kind of like a big rock almost, and they have to they use the Force to lift it, and that reveals a doorway, and they have to keep using the Force to keep the door open, so they can't. It's not just like a one and done thing. And what I never noticed before is this is exactly repeated again, but from the Sith version later, when we're on Malachor 5 with Darth Maul and Ezra. They again have to, master and apprentice together, lift up those blocks to not kill themselves as they walk through the pathway at that temple.
Right, yeah.
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool, like light and dark, to see all these similarities between the two, but from different perspectives.
Yeah, totally. Because the Jedi approach is, you kind of get trapped inside, and there's hope, I guess, that with the union of master and apprentice, they can open the door again and get out. But with the Sith version, it's like, you fail, you die.
Yeah, exactly.
Much more treacherous.
There's no room for error.
Right, exactly. The Jedi
Weed
Temple,
out the
though,
weak.
that being said, though, the Jedi Temple did have dead Jedi in it, and I was very blown away and surprised by this. A bit of a crazy moment to think that whatever time and place that those Jedi skeletons were from, they were very intense to literally sit and wait to die if their Padawan didn't come back.
Yeah, that was crazy to me. That was a very un-Jedi thing. I thought.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
You have to be so trusting in your. I guess it's because it's like a test, but it's one of those tests to me that like sounds good on paper, but then in practice, I feel like it's not very Jedi to just let people die because like their apprentice wasn't able to do a task. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, it almost doesn't fit the mentality of the Jedi, right? Of literally kind of the philosophy of letting go. And to me, those Jedi who literally sat there, with dehydrating and starving to death, literally to the point where they die there in the spot and then melt away as the years go by. Just to me, was the complete opposite of the ability to let go of those that they care about. And I guess it's like their own stubbornness to really like pull through with the idea, like 3 days later, oh yeah, my youngling's not coming back, I guess I'm here forever.
Oh, even more than that. So just thinking about this now, let's say a regular person, if they were there doing that, you can go like, I think it's like 2 weeks or like a week to 2 weeks without water and then a month without food, right? Now if you're a Jedi, you'd be able to prolong that even further. You could probably be there for several months. So if you're sitting there meditating for like 3 or 4 months and your apprentice isn't back, I think you can safely assume they're not going to come back. So are you just going to decide to die? You're just going to stay there? I guess you can't get out, right? You'd be trapped without your apprentice to lift the rock. That's the problem. But you think,
right? Try
something.
Yeah,
there's gotta be a back door.
Dude, I can only just imagine like someone being trapped in there.
Start digging.
I can only just imagine someone being trapped in there, and then another Jedi with their apprentice coming in and be like, "Oh, hey, Bill," and they're like,
"I've been here for so long. Just leave me. My Padawan failed the test. I must die."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like, other Jedi comes in and just pretend it's like a bathroom stall. Oh, occupied.
Yeah, it's like water cooler chat. Like water cooler chat. Hey, your apprentice make it back yet? No.
I'm still waiting. You want out? You want some water or something? I'm okay.
Yeah.
It's self-punishment.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's commitment, I guess. Just acceptance of death.
Totally.
You know what I would do? Because it's the first time we've ever seen this happen. If I was the Jedi Master, I just wouldn't go there. I'd go do the test somewhere else.
Yeah, dude. It's like that sounds like one treacherous Jedi temple like to be stuck in. I mean, like maybe go to Ilum instead. Like.
Oh man, or if like you're Yoda and you just don't like a particular guy, just like, oh, there's a test. I can feel it in the Force. You got to go there. You got to go to this planet, do this thing. Good riddance.
Well, like Yoda's approach to the younglings when they go get their kyber crystal in the Clone Wars was they send them under that almost like a ice wall. And as the sun goes down, the ice refreezes going from top to bottom. So they only have a certain amount of time to get back before it seals off again. And they have to wait a whole nother couple rotations before the sun comes back up and they can get out again, right?
That's what he told them, but it's just ice, so he just like uses the Force to blow a hole in it.
Yeah, they could totally do that too. But it's kind of one of those things where it's just like Yoda doesn't risk himself going in there at all, Whereas Kanan's like, I did like the philosophy that when he says to Ezra that like you must do this alone, and if you don't come back, I'm gonna be here with these Jedi here, and he points to the skeletons, and then Ezra's like, wait, yeah, but you're putting your life in my hands, and then Kanan says, well, you put your training in mine, and I really liked that. Like even though this whole skeleton Jedi thing didn't really fit the philosophy of the Jedi. I liked the comparison that he made there because it's really true. Like it's the direct result of Kanan's training that really would allow Ezra to live in a life and death situation as a Jedi, right? So, and that's exactly what happens with Ahsoka. Like because of Anakin's training, she was able to survive. And, not a lot of other people were able to do that because maybe they either weren't trained as well as they could have been, or, a lot of people died, right? A lot of people failed to pass the ultimate purge, and very few people were able to make it. So it's really kind
That's
of,
true.
I thought.
And as we know, Ahsoka was trained above and beyond any regular Jedi. I think, as we see, it's the flashbacks, right? That's the Clone Wars finale.
The Tales of the
Jedi.
The Tales of the Jedi animated series.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that is specifically touched upon, or like Ahsoka's like, oh, I've already been able to like pass these trials or whatever. It's like, but he goes out of the way. It's like, I want you to be above and beyond regular Jedi. Like, I want to make sure like any situation you will survive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It was Anakin's kind of rigorous testing that allowed Ahsoka to really kind of get to that point of ability, and really sort of reflects in her kind of in the later point of the show when she's able to really put a fight up against Darth Maul and actually kind of come out on top, sort of. It made a lot more sense, right? That her abilities are kind of far beyond her years.
Right. No, it's a good point, especially if you want to consider that Darth Maul bested Qui-Gon.
Totally, yeah. All right, Ezra's fear and vision of the dark side. This is his Dagobah cave moment, right? It's the fear of not being ready to be a Jedi, losing Kanan along the way, and kind of a bit of a spoiler here as well. That is sort of foreshadowing kind of relevance later in the series of that fear, right? The fear that these people that he cares about might be gone one day. And the crew of the Ghost is like insulting him and makes him like kind of question his reality. And, especially when the Inquisitor kills them all, he kind of starts to realize like all this is kind of too dark to be true. This must be a dream. And, I think towards the end, they kind of made it really obvious when Sabine's like, oh, how long do you think he was listening? And Seth, like, all right, maybe the test isn't so challenging after all. But yeah.
Well, I mean, don't forget, he's also a kid, right? So it's like you're taking these things, you're in the situation, you take it personally. You might be so emotionally hurt, like you don't pick up on these like the subtleties that make it feel unrealistic like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yoda's presence is much like Qui-Gon's before him. The difference being that Yoda's still alive, but he's presented to Kanan in the form of like a bunch of glowing dots in space. And that's similar to the way that Qui-Gon was presented to Yoda when Yoda was undergoing the training to learn the ways of immortality and all that stuff from the Force priestesses back in the Clone Wars. That being the main difference being that Qui-Gon is actually dead, and the reason he gives for not being able to conjure his Force body is that his training is not complete. So I was wondering if you had any opinions on kind of the physical presence that they gave Yoda in this. Do you think that there was some connection there to maybe even Yoda's training's not complete, or because I got the idea that his training was complete by the end of that Clone Wars arc, but maybe it's not. Or maybe.
Well, the question then.
Yeah.
Did that Clone Wars arc? I'm trying because of the gap between the last two seasons of Clone Wars, I have a hard time remembering the finales, like the release order. Was that episode after Rebels or before?
The Clone Wars Immortality arc, that was before Rebels.
That was before Rebels. Okay. That does raise a good question then, because at that point, then I would have thought Yoda would be complete. But that being said, I'm sure he did a lot of meditating and self-searching while he was stuck on Dagobah for so long. So maybe it's along those lines. Because it's also interesting to me to think about from the perspective he was so quick to help Ezra at this point, but then a handful of years later, he's so opposed to teaching Luke anything.
Yeah. Well, also the fact that, he tells Luke that, like, the last of the Jedi will you be, not like, somewhere in space, there is a boy named Ezra Bridger.
I better go back and fix that. We need another special edition.
Yeah.
Just do a voiceover line.
Yeah.
Last of the Jedi you will be, except for some kid in deep space.
Yeah.
Don't worry about him.
The last of the Jedi will you be, except for Ahsoka and Ezra and somebody else and your sister and just a bunch of things. Oh man.
Or like Luke, as soon as Luke leaves, like Ezra shows up and then Yoda goes, "Last of the Jedi you will be," and he just tells everyone that comes there the same thing.
Oh man,
he just hung crazy on Dagobah.
Yeah.
Left here for so long.
He's got like,
leave your food. I give you good food. Oh, this is awful. He's just completely nuts. He just lost it.
He's just got a major case of dementia. Like Ahsoka was there like the day before and he just can't remember.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so compared to
his characters, Obi-Wan's becoming like this liar, just lies to everyone. Yoda's gone crazy.
I don't remember owning a droid. Who's droid? Oh man. Compared to Ilum, it is Yoda who grants Ezra his crystal, as that's what it seems to be. And the crystal kind of floats to him in space. I thought this was a really interesting, unique approach, and I thought to myself, it's also slightly weird, only because like he's probably just hanging out at his hut on Dagobah, and then maybe gets a tickle up his spine, going like, "Oh, someone's entered the temple on Ilum," and starts meditating about it, and goes like, "Oh yeah, there's the," realizes, "Hey, oh, this is like a Jedi kind of, learning." He's communicating with Kanan at the same time. And really just kind of, he's the one to grant the crystal to him. Did you find that there was, do you think that was a bit more direct than I think it should have been, or did you like that?
Good question. I think there's a little more to it. Like, I think, sorry, I should have mentioned this for the last topic. So I think specifically in this case, Yoda is able to connect to what's going on in the temple because of on Dagobah, there is that cave that we see Luke testing that is very high force sensitivity. And as we see Ezra's visions versus Luke's visions is all very similar, right? So there's a similarity between these two locations. And so I think with Yoda's presence being close to that cave, he's able to maybe sense stuff a little more acutely, and probably even more so between these two very force sensitive areas. So I think a lot of it's all tied together around that, as opposed to just Yoda and where he is at his training and his personal force capability. As far as the crystal reveal part, it's a good question, because that's not really what we saw in Ilum. They kind of did that themselves, and the Force revealed it itself, not Yoda. Mm-hmm. And maybe Yoda knew it was there, and he was able to shroud it somewhat until he approved of Ezra. Maybe it's more along those lines. I doubt he would have much more ability than that. That'd be my guess, I think. Oh, I guess that means I'm wrong. He's laughing at my answer. Or he's proud of me. You never know, Yoda.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you've discovered his secret, he's been shrouding it. Clouding.
Yeah, I think it's
sitting on it. I was.
Under Yoda's rocket was. You should not.
Hidden it in Luke's burrito. Ezra's lightsaber
better than fish sticks.
Yeah, better than fish sticks. Yeah, that's true. That's what those are, aren't they? They're like fish sticks from the 70s or the 80s. right?
No, they were something else. They weren't fish sticks. That's what everyone thinks they are. But it was revealed. Or Mark Hamill explained what they were. I think it was like a chickpea thing,
Oh, okay. All right.
something like that. Anyway, there was no meat
Right.
because I think they were worried about it going off. He said they were awful. As that with all the food he had to consume while working on the Star Wars franchise.
That's probably why he takes like the smallest bite and then like throws it away.
Yeah, exactly. Let him have it, R2. I don't want it's terrible.
Hey, that's
keep
my
it.
dinner. His
Stop
lightsaber.
making such a mess.
Yeah, don't do that. His lightsaber is built. I love that scene, man. I love that sequence so much.
Me too. Yoda's just so crazy. What if that was the real Yoda and Yoda being like a serious Jedi Master? Like that was the fake Yoda.
He's got like a dual personality disorder.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe he took a page out of Palpatine's notebook and was like, "Good idea to change Jedi." This is.
Oh my gosh, just gone nuts.
Yeah. Okay, his Ezra's lightsaber is built, and it's the first of its kind. It has a blaster on the front of it.
You were so mad about this when this came out. You hated this. I remember this. You were just like, yeah.
It just, I don't know, man. I feel like, to me, I thought they'd done it specifically for the toys, and they wanted to make a collaboration with Nerf and like put a Nerf guard on the front of a lightsaber hilt. I thought for sure that's why they did it.
I find it funny though that it's a Jedi. I mean, I guess because Ezra's kind of creative and he built his own his wrist slingshot thing. But generally, that's a Sith thing to make a lightsaber with alternate capabilities.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's kind of is unique, right? Like I think when Kanan holds it, he's like, "Well, it's different."
Yeah. I find it funny though because when I was in middle school, I used to design my own lightsabers, just like drawing them. And things I would often do is put like guns and lightsabers and like sniper rifles and stuff together.
Yeah.
And so I find it really funny that I used to draw handguns or like blasters with lightsabers on them. And then that's exactly what Ezra has. It was also probably like, he's like 14, like the same age.
Right, exactly. I think that's
Like, sure, a lightsaber's good, but what about a lightsaber that can also shoot stuff? I was like, yeah, so cool.
I feel like
it looks like a stapler, which I think is hilarious.
the only step that they could have taken to further deepen into that particular situation is if it actually shot mini lightsaber blades out of it. I think that would have been that would have been a little too far. But
what's funny is I've seen designs for that online, people drawing lightsaber shooting things because it'll cut through anything.
Yeah, exactly right. It's like the ultimate dream saber gun blaster kind of thing, right? But
yeah.
Like
how if you drop a lightsaber blade down, it'll just cut through the whole planet.
Right. There's a robot chicken for that. All right, season 1, episode 11, Idiot's Array. Written by Kevin Hobbs, directed by Stuart Lee, released on WatchDisney.com and the app on January 12, 2015. Premiered on Disney XD January 19th. Guest stars Billy D. Williams.
This deal is getting worse all the time.
That's right. Ben Diskin and James Hong. Zeb bets and loses Chopper to smuggler Lando Calrissian. Hello, what do we have here? In a game of sabacc, forcing the Ghost crew to assist Lando with the dangerous smuggling run to get their droid back. However, during the smuggling run, Lando trades Hera to a crime lord named Azmorigan in exchange for a puffer pig, which can detect precious minerals for mining purposes, leaving Hera to escape in an escape pod. That's right. Humiliated, Azmorigan and his henchmen intercept the rebels on Lothal to take revenge. The crew successfully drives the gangsters away, and the rebels part ways with Lando, though not before Chopper steals the fuel to Lando's ship, which the smuggler concedes as payment for their help as they fly away. So one thing I liked about this episode, of course, was Lando returning. Lando flirting with Hera is hilarious.
That was pretty good.
I love how he states himself. He's like, I'm a galactic entrepreneur. And then Kanan says something. He's like, that means business person. And he's like, I know what it means.
Classic Ezra.
It's just like, I love how he walks out of the room and Kanan's like, man, I don't like that guy. And then he goes to the back where he saunters over to the back where he like starts chatting up Sabine. And then Ezra's like, says the exact same thing. He's like, man, I really don't like that guy.
Nobody trusts Lando. That's funny because he's so suave. So usually people get lost in his fancy words and his beautiful eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is technically, I mean, maybe I'm misremembering if there's another book or a comic that he shows up in. I think there is a comic book series called Lando that shows up in between the events of Solo and this series, but this is kind of the first time since the Donald Glover, the first on-screen appearance, right? The first kind of.
I was just wondering that. Yeah. What's the timeline gap between the Solo movie and this Rebels episode?
I would say it's probably about 7 years.
Okay.
Maybe 6. I mean, Solo takes place about 5 years after Episode 3, I think it is. And
okay.
And then Empire Strikes Back is about 3 years after Episode 4, which is at 19 later after Episode 3. Minus the 5 years from Solo. So, like 14, 15 years, I guess, after Solo, maybe something around there.
Okay, that's a long time then. That's definitely more than enough time for the aging of talk. 7 years, okay, yeah, a little tighter, but I could see it. I'm just because I'm trying to picture my head.
Sorry, no, it is 14. Sorry, 7 since Solo, but like maybe about 14 since Episode 3. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's something around there. I think it's 14. But
okay,
yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I can see then the chilling and Lando getting back on his feet then, because I just know where we left Lando in Solo, he was without a ship and probably pretty bitter. So kind of get back on his feet and get his Enterprise going again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I thought it was a highlight for me in this episode, obviously, is Azmorigan. Based on the concept drawing for he's actually his character is based on the concept drawing for Jabba the Hutt, which this dude is amazing. I mean, he spits as he eats fruit. He sounds like an incredibly scummy guy.
It's almost like Jabba, right? It's kind of the idea, I think.
Yeah, but even more like kind of filthy. He's just like a filthy, scummy sort of like Jabba's just disgusting. Right, but as Morgan, right. he's like the gum under your table. He's like, man, this guy's gross.
He's the scummiest of the scum lords.
Yeah. Her attire is preposterous, but the trade is acceptable.
Yeah, exactly. I love that voice actor. I'm blanking on his name, but I know I've seen like Disney and a bunch of stuff. I always liked him quite a lot. I think he does some voices for Mulan, if I'm not mistaken, the original animated movie.
He's so good. I mean, he does the voice like no one else can do it. You know what I mean? I would love to see this character come to live action, 100%.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Would you want it to be like a Jabba style character, or are you thinking just someone like a fat suit?
I think just like just a fat suit would be good enough. I think. I mean, I think maybe a CG head really to nail the mouth. You know what
facial,
I mean?
Yeah.
The
well, I like
facial stuff.
I like when they do the mix. So it's like the mouth is like real, but the rest of it isn't. Or if they do like animatronic, but then digitally lip sync stuff like that. I always think looks the best generally.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
like,
that's how I would lean it, and like in like a fat bastard style fat suit, like the really big one.
right. Yeah, something like that. You know, that would be awesome. You know, like the scene was like Hera tells him like, and perhaps you wish to dine alone, and he's like,
Oh, yes. Go, leave us. Beat it.
Just so easily persuaded.
it's just so good, man. Like, okay, I think this is
Perhaps you'd
originally.
like to buy me a yacht.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
yeah, I love how flirtatious she comes across, but he's so easily like seduced by Hera. You know what I mean? Yeah, I love how he
I guess
says
that's
beat
why
it.
he's always
It says beat
Yeah,
it to
yeah.
his droids. He has droid servants. You know, like
Go, leave us. Beat it.
I love how he's always so panicked. It always just sounds like he's just in a panic.
yeah, he's always so so panicked. Yeah. Oh man, and then smacking with the tray, that was satisfying. Holy crap. Okay, when Hera punches Lando, there was a bit of voice modulation there, which was extremely terrible. And I just thought to myself,
Oh,
man,
no.
can a highly acclaimed actor like Billy D. Williams not just act like he's got punched in the gut? Like this to me just came across a little odd when that moment came up. Did that strike you as strange?
I didn't notice it. I don't think I was paying close enough attention to the audio quality. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, when you say modulation, you mean they like edited it so it sounded funny?
Yeah. So they edited it so that when he gets punched by Hera, it really kind of comes across as a bit jarring. Like you can totally tell it's been put through like a phaser and a couple voice modulators to like make it sound.
Should have got the clip ready to play here on the show because I didn't notice.
Oh yeah. No, it's really strange. I'll look it up and in the meantime I'll move on to the next thing. But it's something that also to note. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, there's something that maybe I'm wrong about this because it's been so long. But if you recall, back when The Force Awakens hadn't come out yet, and we were listening to Rebel Force Radio, and I think the trailer had just come out, and there's that pig. There's that big giant pig that we see in the trailer. We're meeting Rey, right? And then Finn comes and drinks out of the water trough that the pig is drinking out of. Remember that pig?
Yes.
So
yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure when the guys from RFR were speculating, they called it a puffer pig. And so I think this may have been a nod to that when they named the pig in this episode, but I might be wrong. I might be wrong, but that's what it reminded me of.
It's an interesting theory. That's super foggy in my mind, so I couldn't quite remember that. But
because
yeah,
that's around the era where Dave Filoni used to actually call into their show. They stopped doing that right around when Force Awakens came out. But during all the animated series, they actually used to have him as a guest, if you recall. So there was actually a connection between the Lucasfilm writing team with Filoni and those guys. So it's possible that happened. I don't know. I would have thought that he would have listened to it occasionally, at least.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I think that's definitely something to keep in mind. That's a good observation. I don't think I would ever I have no idea where that reference would be. I wouldn't know where to look. They've got so many episodes, but yeah, I mean, maybe we can take that with a grain of salt and call it maybe some possible influence there. I mean, if that was a thing, but yeah.
If anyone wants to check, including you, Josh, then all you have to do is look up the release date of the Force Awakens trailer and then listen to the podcast right after that. It's probably that one.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I'll definitely keep that in mind. Yeah. And if anyone finds anything out, send us an email, swskpodcast@gmail.com. Here is the audio
feel free
clip.
to point out how I'm incredibly wrong.
Here's the audio clip.
You played that perfectly. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I deserve that, but can we get back to the job at hand? Flying us past the Imperial blockade. Otherwise, I don't have to pay you or give your droid back.
Oh, you know what? That is so weird. Maybe it's different now? What the heck? That is...
It's funny because it sounded like he was in a spacesuit. Like has that kind of weird
Right, yeah.
gargly noise. But maybe that's because I'm listening to it streamed through here.
Let me just play it one more time. Hold on.
I deserve that, but can we get back to the job at hand? Flying us past the Imperial...
You know what? I am convinced they changed it. I'm convinced that they changed it.
I think it is.
Yeah, I
think you're right.
There sounds very like kind of monotone now, but it used to be like really garbled, like as if they were trying to make it super high pitched at first and then kind of worked it down. Dude, I can't believe the timing of this because I literally just watched this the other day, and
either that or you're just mistaken.
Yeah,
just admit when you're wrong, Josh.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know
how often they're changing the audio for Star Wars Rebels. Doing like backtracking fixes.
Okay, Okay, I found the clip on YouTube, so let me just look it up on YouTube because this is from 6 years ago.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, you're welcome.
I deserve that, but can we get back
to the job at hand?
There we go. Dude, they
Josh,
changed it. They have changed it.
You uncovered. Oh my gosh, you uncovered a secret edit.
Yeah, dude. Okay, this is recent stuff. Like they must have changed this.
No changes.
I
want the original upload.
they pulled a George Lucas within the last couple days, dude. Because I literally watched this episode like not even 4 days ago, and they must have changed it since then. That's
crazy. What? I thought you were nuts.
No, yeah. Like, take another listen. Take another listen. This is. We might be the breaking podcast to discover this here. I mean, this is super recent.
You played that perfectly.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I deserve that, but can we get back
to the job at hand?
All right, yeah.
That's the YouTube version.
That's from 6 years ago. That's the YouTube.
Yeah.
That's the YouTube clip. But I watched this on Disney Plus like 3 days ago. I also have the first season on Blu-ray, and I am like 99% convinced that it sounds like this on my Blu-ray copy as well.
Okay, so, play the one on Disney Plus right now. I need another comparison here.
Okay, and then here's the Disney Plus. Oh shoot, it's hold on. I think I lost it for a second there. Okay, the Disney Plus version coming up. I think maybe the reason why they changed it, I think, is in the YouTube comments on that clip. There's people saying that he got punched in the balls, and maybe they just didn't want it to like come across as brutal.
How often do you think Disney or Lucasfilm was looking at the YouTube comments for a Rebels clip from 8 years ago?
I have no idea, but okay, here we go.
I deserve that, but can we get back to the job at hand? Flying us past the Imperial blockade.
Right?
Yeah, they changed it. What the heck?
They 100% changed it.
That's crazy.
That is nuts. We're the first podcast to break this out.
You better put this in the title. Newly revealed, Disney changes edit so Lando no longer punched in the balls.
Yeah. Oh man, that would be what a headline that would be. I'll definitely have to put something in there. Okay, so Chopper was playing Lando the whole time. He steals the fuel, but it turns out Lando knew. Lando, he's such a skeever, and because he knew that Chopper stole the fuel, that's why he never paid them in the first place. But he actually turns out he have the money. He did have the money. So there we go. And then he goes, "Till we meet again," and then that's it. Yeah.
It's a funny outtake, like leaving line, because that sounds like something out of Star Trek or like a 50s.
Sounds like Buzz Lightyear.
Sci-fi show.
Yeah,
exactly.
And beyond. All right, final episode that we'll talk about quickly. We'll express right through this one. Season 1, Episode 12, Vision of Hope. The episode was written by Henry Gilroy, directed by Stephen G. Lee. was released on WatchDisney.com and the app on January 26, 2015. Premiered on Disney XD February 2nd, 2015. Guest stars Brett Spiner, Kath Soucie, David Accord, Matthew Wood, and Brighton James. During lightsaber practice, Ezra has fragmented a vision of meeting Gul Travis, an exiled Imperial senator and rebel sympathizer, and assumes that Travis knows his parents, or about his parents. The rebels receive a transmission from Travis notifying them of a secret rally on Lothal, but Ezra receives a tip from Zer Leonis, that's the kid that we met in the episode where he was an Imperial cadet undercover. And Callus is to use the senator to lure the rebels into a trap. Following Travis's transmissions, the rebels find him and save him from Callus by escaping into Lothal's sewer system. But to Ezra's dismay, Travis reveals himself to be an Imperial spy who has used his anti-Imperial transmissions to identify rebel sympathizers. Claims that Ezra's parents are dead and gone. Having suspected his treachery, Hera outsmarts Travis and knocks him out so that the rebels can escape. Although disappointed by the betrayal, Ezra and the other rebels remain hopeful to their cause. Something interesting about this, going back to what we were talking about 5 minutes ago, or maybe 30, was the fact that Zebo actually knew about the Bridger's fate. And in this episode, it seems like maybe Hera didn't tell Ezra at all, and he has to discover the truth through this lying putz. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
kind of interesting. Ezra's training, and
that is weird.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't Hera have just told him?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it felt kind of like a really sort of strange "I am your father" moment that really.
I know why.
Could have been approached
because they got 15 episodes. They got it right.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, maybe it was a storyline that just didn't go anywhere, and they were like, okay, well, maybe we can change things up. Maybe Hera didn't tell Ezra to spare him or something like that, or whatever. Right. Ezra's training and using the Force causes the vision to happen, and we've seen it before. We've seen Force users, in the heat of the moment, kind of like have a vision, in battle or whatever, right? Like we've seen Ahsoka go through those motions with Aura Singh and Padme, and I thought it was all very familiar, so it was interesting to see that plot line return to an animated series. Zer comes back into the story briefly to update the audience on his mission. And again, if anyone wants to read about the full story of Zer Leonis, it's fantastic. The series is called Servants of the Empire. It's 4 junior novels written by Jason Fry, who has cited the series as one of his favorites of the works that he's ever written for the Star Wars universe, describing it as an exploration of how good people can lose their humanity if being drawn into an evil system. And
did we read this one?
No, I have. I don't think you've read it, but
is it a short story or like a?
They're junior novels, so they're junior novels, so they're very, very quick to get through. I would say if you're a fast reader, it might take 2 hours or 3. They're barely, they're super quick. They're those paperback, very thin, similar to like the Jedi Apprentice or Jedi Quest books. Those size.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And there's 4 of them. So the series is about Zer Leonis kind of between the events of the first episode in Rebels that we meet him in breaking ranks, leading up to this episode, and then going past the events of this episode where they meet Ezra again, into the point where he gets to that place that he is telling Ezra that he's going, which is Arcanus. And the series caps off with like sort of a finale, a climax event, if you will, at this secret academy on Arcanus. So
interesting. What I want to know, does it finally reveal how Zer got promoted?
Yes, actually.
Oh wow! Okay,
I think it does.
Because I know that. So that's a little snippet or reveal that we got in this episode.
Exactly.
Zer's moving up the ranks.
Exactly. Yeah. Hera is
short. I'm trying to remember. Towards the end of this, they managed to stay with the Empire, right? They like find an excuse.
Yeah.
Why they didn't stop.
Yeah.
The rebels.
So Zare basically, like, you know, like he kind of fakes the idea that he tried to catch Ezra when he's discovered, and you know,
right, yeah,
because he's obviously not trying to capture him, right? He's kind of he's
that
helping.
citizen selling contraband.
Yeah,
Wasn't able to stop him.
I caught that rebels smuggling black market goods or whatever he said, or something
that's what it was.
Yeah. Hera in this episode is a total badass. You know, she figures out that Travis's secret, knocking him out, like just, you know, boom, after handing him a unloaded blaster. And that was awesome.
Classic James Bond move.
Classic James Bond move. That's some Padme or Leia level stuff right there. I thought that was a pretty smart move. She says something along the lines of how a real rebel would know when they're holding an unloaded blaster. And I was like, yep, that's a cool classic line. I feel like I've heard that before. In other movies, but yeah, you know, what did you think about this episode just overall?
I enjoyed it. I know the reveal that the Empire has like fake rebels out there that are trying to get real rebels to get in touch with them was actually pretty clever. I think something that they might actually do, setting up traps, right? And the fact that it was also the senator, because it's weird that it's kind of known that this senator is doing it, but the Empire hasn't stopped them. They try to explain it away as like they never have any actual proof, but everyone like kind of knows that it's him.
Yeah.
But then revealing that it's an inside job by the Empire just makes a lot of sense. It's also one of those things that after enough rebel cells get caught, they might catch on. But I thought it was pretty cool. It was fun, and we know that this inspires the finale of this season because he's putting out this kind of like black radio signal, a pirate radio signal, to bolster hope that there is still people fighting against the Empire, and that inspires the finale of this season because they kind of just steal that idea and do the same thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, for sure. Also worth noting.
Which is interesting because that's also what Ezra's parents did, right? Same thing.
Yeah, exact same thing. I mean, his parents were like you put it, the original Rebel Force radio.
That's right.
Yeah.
And all of it is kind of a bit of a nod to what the French were doing when they're occupied by the Nazis during World War II. They had all of these like secret radio stations that they'd be putting out, hope for other rebellions and stuff.
Yeah.
And be like,
yeah.
And then of course, like the Nazis would be tracking them down and trying to, find the people who are doing it and arrest them. So it'd be a real pirate radio, always on the move sort of situation, right?
Yeah. Always on the move. Yeah. Well, that's what we have for this episode of Rebels Talk. And it's always great to chat Star Wars Rebels with you, sir. Real quick, because we haven't actually given Pablos and Pudus for any of these this episode. Let's just run through real quick. Just name your score as we go down the list here. Okay, first off,
explain the thing first, because it's always complicated. So any listeners haven't heard it before.
Of course, yeah. So our rating system, if you guys don't know, called Pablo points or Pudus, is a score out of 7. The worst of the worst being 3 Pablo Pudus. Moving up from there, you got 2 Pablo Pudus, 1 Pablo Pudu. A 50% is a Bendu right in the middle. And then you got Pablo points in the positive range. So you got 1 Pablo point, 2 Pablo points, and 3 Pablo points being the best of the best of the best. So let's start off with the first episode that we talked about, which is episode 9, Gathering Forces. That's the one with Sibo and the Fernox and the exit out of hyperspace and the Inquisitor fight. What would you give that server?
I like this one. I thought this one was pretty unique. It had a lot going on. It was exciting, and it was the ending of a first 2-parter, I guess, barring the starter movie, Spark Rebellion. So I would give this one, let's say, 1.5 Pablos.
Yeah, I'd give it 1.5. That sounds good to me. Yeah. Path of the Jedi. This one was the one with Yoda and the Jedi Temple.
Oh, I like this one too. maybe not quite as exciting as the previous episode, so I'm gonna give it 1 Papa point.
Yeah, I'll give it 1. It's good score. Idiots
Quit
Array.
copying me.
Idiots Array. Idiots Array with Lando.
Now it's funny. It's just like quickly burning through them all. Really wasn't like these episodes for the most part. I enjoy. I'd say the next one after this is probably the one I enjoyed the least. This one again, I'd probably give it. I think again I stick to like 1 Papa point. I think that's a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this one 1.5, only because if I again. My perspective on the show has changed a little bit. I really enjoyed the character Azmorigan, so I think that's the only reason why I'm giving another 0.5 there. But I would say it's
That's
good.
true, actually.
Yeah.
I'll give it 1 1/4.
Just to switch things up.
Give it another 25.
And Vision of Hope, I'm going to give this one a Bendu.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Is Bendu? It wasn't anything in here that made me particularly upset. I would just say it was just not as exciting as the other episodes.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, that's Pablo points and Pablo Pudus for you. And if anyone wants to get in touch with us at the show, feel free to just tweet us at SW Escape Podcast. Send us an email. Let us know your scores for these episodes as well, because we'd like to know that. Or you can just dive into our Discord server, and we have a thread open for Star Wars Rebels. You can just pipe it in there. Just tell us what Rebels Talk episode you listen to, and how bad our opinions are on these episodes or something. I don't know. We'd like to just hear what you think. You know what I mean? So let us know. We're pretty active in there, I guess. I mean, we don't have the time of day to constantly put new stuff, new messages in there, but we try our best, and it takes other people to get conversations going. So definitely jump in there, get your hands dirty. Yeah.
Definitely tell us how we're wrong, because I think having some controversy on there and talking about stuff is always more interesting conversation. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I honestly I don't normally like being told that I'm wrong about stuff, but in the event,
it makes you have to really get into your thoughts on it and explain it. And
that's that's exactly what I was about to say.
If everyone agrees, then the conversation doesn't go anywhere.
That's the caveat. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't normally like it, but with Star Wars, I think it makes good conversation, right? So I like to hear, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong about my Pablo points and poodoo on these Rebels episodes. Next up on Rebels Talk, we'll have the final 3 episodes of season 1, which will be episode 13, 14, and 15, leading into season 2. And we'll be hitting those final 3 episodes of season 1 in the next week or two. But as of this moment, when Rebels Talk Part 4, this episode right now that we're talking in, drops on the day that it does, it means that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny will have been in theaters for a couple days at this point. And real quick, spoiler-free, couple words, what'd you think?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I had party conversation.
Yeah, Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, Indiana Jones. Real quick, just
I liked
words.
Yeah, I liked it quite a lot. I personally liked it a lot more than Crystal Skull. I thought it was a definitely step up. I would say, because is it officially in theaters? People could see it.
Oh yeah. I saw it last night.
Okay, I would say that the part that I think people are a little iffy about is any time travel-y stuff. That was a pretty small part of the movie, which surprised me. I thought it was going to be a larger segment. So if you're worried that that's going to feel too Indiana Jones, I think you're okay. I know the other thing is there's a lot of online speculation about the female lead character. I didn't feel like a lot of the rumors were true. I'm sure that's left to everyone else's personal opinion on that, but I enjoyed it. I didn't find that it was hampered by any, personal opinion stuff that we're seeing online. I enjoyed it. I'd watch it again. And I would keep it in the regular rotation. I know I tend to skip Crystal Skull, but this one I actually probably would watch. Would it be maybe a little better if Harrison Ford was a bit younger, a little more adventure-y? Probably. There's a few scenes I know that just knowing Harrison Ford at his age, you could tell that was definitely CG or a body double or something, which was kind of
Yeah.
I wish that stuff had just been done in a way that it wasn't so obvious.
Right.
Usually it has to do with him dodging something at the last second. There's kind of two scenes, one with the train and then one with the car crash. Hopefully that's not spoilery. But
I would give the movie
barring those two moments. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, nothing. Go ahead.
I'll say barring those two moments, I enjoyed it quite a lot, and like I didn't feel like I was taken out with too many like politics or anything along those lines. So I enjoyed it. I would definitely watch it again and give it a recommendation. And I would give it, let's say solid 2 to 2.5 Pablo points.
Oh, that's quite high. I would have given it 1.5. I think I enjoyed it quite a bit. But yeah, I think 1.5 is kind of where I'm sitting, maybe 2. But we'll do a full length. I mean, it is a Lucasfilm production. We'll do a full length podcast episode on this, maybe in a week or so, maybe a week and a half or so, whenever we got time for it. And I would love to just kind of further dive into these conversations because there's a lot to talk about there with that movie, and we'll go full spoiler territory. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll bring on the crew. We'll get Bryce and maybe Kirk and whoever else wants to join. And we'll do a fun breakdown.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's nothing better than talking about a new Star Wars movie. But I mean, since we won't get any this year, we'll have to settle for Indiana Jones, and it's not a bad trade-off. I mean, it is Harrison Ford's very last adventure as Indy. And I highly doubt that. They'll get to
it. Depending on face replacement technology, we might get Indiana Jones as Harrison Ford for the rest of eternity. So
right, yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, that's certainly a possibility. I mean, a full movie like that would be bold, but I mean, a series would be pretty.
I'll fall off from that, man. I give it less than 10 years. I would think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a good point. This would be. I mean, I'll restate that then. This is the last time that he's going to be outing as the character in the age that he is. So maybe we'll see a day where we get CG heads and body replacements and this and that to create younger indie stories. But in the meantime, this is the last chapter that we have, similar to how Logan was the outing for Wolverine. We'll be getting younger stories of Wolverine in the future, but I mean, that was kind of the sun setting on that character in a very sort of pleasant cinematic way. So looking forward to chatting about it with you, sir, as well as the next episode of Rebels Talk. Thanks again for coming back on and hosting with me, and we will catch you in the next one.
We'll see you out there. Keep flying.
All right, and thank you so much to all our listeners who are coming back every week and dropping those 5 stars, sharing the show with a friend. That really, really does help us out a lot because we are unmonetized. We just want to see this podcast grow and kind of widen the audience a little bit and reach more people. So definitely that really helps us out a lot. You can follow us on social handles with the handle at SW Escape Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Presently, YouTube video versions of the podcast drop on Tuesdays, usually. That's most of the week. And Mondays is when you can catch the audio version of the podcast. If you're subscribed to the Twitter, you may also see the episodes pop up in video form on Tuesdays or Mondays. Maybe Twitter gets it first. So go follow us there. So thanks again to Blake for coming back on. Thanks to all of you guys tuning into Rebels Talk each week, and make sure you join us for our regular programming on the podcast, those normal Star Wars episodes that we do. May the Force be with you. We'll see you in the next one.
No more.